City Fit was flooded up to about 40 centimetres on our lower level, so we got 1,000 square metres. We knew from the landlord where the level in 1942 was, and we were able to work out based off that and the predictions that they were making that, yeah, we would go underwater. So it affected so many different areas. It affected our reception area, our main gym, our aerobic room. We were very lucky to save a lot of the equipment, especially our electronic equipment, so like your treadmills and bikes and that sort of thing. We actually put it up on aerobic steps, so we stacked them up and popped it up on that. The water came within 5 centimetres of the treadmills. Our childcare got hit pretty hard because it was one of the areas that we weren't able to actually, get a lot of stuff out of beforehand. That was the one thing that we really took away from the whole experience, is how much other people care and how much other people are happy to, put up their own time.
The first few days after the flood was pretty tough. I remember calling Sharon and Dave asking, when can we get in and when can we start, cleaning up? Something that you see 6 days a week, just lost almost. So yeah, it's pretty tough. Childcare probably was hit the hardest. We lost a lot of our stuff, a lot of toys, cubby houses, stuff that the kids, just idolised. People that I work with as, teammates, became friends a lot too, because we spent a lot of time together. So it's brought a lot of people together, including members.
1 minute was sort of preparing, watching the water, slowly come up. I suppose you're stressing out while it's flooding, and then just kicking to overdrive. The adrenaline kicks in a little bit. Once you see the aftermath, you've got no choice but to clean up and get on with it. People did what they could, which was a fantastic help, and I'd like to thank them for that. That was fantastic.
The river started as well, and we had a lot of information being fed to us at the time, and as much as could be fed to us at the time. We were inundated with water to the tune of 3 metres, and there wasn't one part of the store that didn't go underwater. We were lucky enough to take out insurance only 6 weeks before the event. Without that, we probably wouldn't be here trading today. We were moving it to a height we thought the water was going to go to. We managed to keep it out at one level, and then the water got over the top and came in the back door another height above, and where we moved it to still wasn't high enough. We lost a lot of everyday business at the time, but fortunately we had insured against that, the loss of business, as well as the damage from the flood. The one good thing that came out of it with the insurance side of things is we got all new everything. So we had a brand new store when we finished virtually. We had new fixtures, new fittings. Bundaberg City Council were outstanding. I mean, they provided the equipment, the machinery, the trucks, the stuff to get rid of the rubbish. We had a lot of community support. People came in to help us from everywhere. I know at one stage we had over 120 to 130 people here helping us. Fire brigade were in with their hoses and all that sort of stuff. It was just magnificent.
I was thinking, how am I going to engage people from the region? And that's when I thought of the footprints. I thought a footprint is a iconic symbol for identity. It's innate for humans to express themselves, to leave a mark of some sort and say, this is me, I was in this place. I went into 12 communities and facilitated the assemblage of a footprint in each of those. And Elliot Heads kicked it off. That's a coastal place, so it was a very coastal footprint. Innes Park was at the beer festival, and so there was lots of ephemeral materials that weren't of the natural kind. Childers, it's very cultivated. When you drive through, you've got these beautiful, vibrant red soils. Woodgate, strong community spirit there at Woodgate. Bundaberg was hosted by the Aboriginal Corporation for Women, and they had chosen a site that was meaningful to them in the Botanical Gardens. Baffle Creek, that was at the school, and every child brought something along. Moore Park was at the Surf Lifesaving Club. It's a bit of a beach lifestyle there, so that one turned into a big thong. Kalan South, that was done at a beautiful community school that has a really strong sense of ancestral lineage and community relationships. Gin Gin, I didn't realise how severely Gin Gin was affected by the floods. The people that came really wanted to share their story. There was pieces of bitumen road that had been dislodged from the flood, so they were incredibly strong symbols that graphically represented the effects. Cordalba, we ended up doing 2 footprints because the whole school got involved in that. We used things like sugar got a big bag of raw sugar from the mill, so using sort of site-specific materials, sugarcane stems, burnet heads, which is part of the Lighthouse Festival, and Bagara. That will be the 12 footprints then. So symbolically, the idea of the footprints is it actually links the region.
My name's Kate Tash. I'm from a small community at Branyan. It's west of the airport in Bundaberg. We have a couple of crossings, the main one being McCoy's Creek between us and the main town of Bundaberg. One of our locals, Mr Nelson, discovered that people didn't have fuel down where the power was cut. Also, there were people wanting urgent medical supplies. He decided he would put his boat in and help those people. I myself, at the time, was working as an assistant nurse at Gracehaven Homes, just 5 shifts before my retirement left. I wasn't able on the 29th to go to work because it was too dangerous to go across. Obviously, with aged care, people needed someone to turn up and look after them for the day. Many of the workers were not able to get there, so the facility was very short-staffed. I spoke to Mr Nielsen about the possibilities of my being ferried across. By the time I had completed the 8-hour shift, the crossing had already gone down and people were able to get back to town again. Mr Nielsen did a wonderful, wonderful thing for our community, as did so many people out there. The creek became a gathering place for the community, and people would discuss on, you know, the various stories that were happening and the needs of the community, and it really brought a lot of people together.
Doug Ambrose, I'm the principal of Bundaberg East State School. The water just rose and rose and rose. Then once it was up, it stayed up for 2 or 3 days and then started to subside. There was fish swimming across all of our ovals down the bottom and actually jumping down there. One of the local fishermen actually set a net on the school oval and caught himself a feed of mullet and a few bony bream. I'd been here for 21 years and I'd never seen anything like it. The school was a mess, you know, like the whole grounds and everything were covered with debris. One of the parents came in and we packed up all the freezers and we shifted them around to their place and plugged them all in, minimise the amount of damage that would be done because of the loss of power. Otherwise we would have lost all our freezers, lost everything that was in them. We've marked the flood level on certain buildings and across the grounds. It's really quite stunning when you go around and you see the level that the water was actually at. The most impressive thing to me was the degree of support from the whole community and the way that the Bundaberg community rallied together. It makes you really, really proud to be part of a community like that.
I'm Honey Anderson and I'm a volunteer for Emergency Services Red Cross here in Bundaberg. I did receive a phone call from the local disaster management branch to come and assist in setting up an evacuation centre. We had to liaise very, very closely with the council to get all the properties we needed. We had the one location here around the corner at the Civic Centre, and we had to open up another one over north, over the bridge at the school. The Salvation Army, who do the catering in evacuation centres, they looked after everyone exceptionally well.
My name's Brett Jensen. I grew up in Bundaberg. Spinnaker Bar and Restaurant's a bit of an iconic restaurant in Bundaberg in that it's been here for 30 years. Coming up towards the floods, I remember it was Christmas Eve. It was our last day of trade. I got the SES down with sandbags, and I must have been the first phone call they had because they actually delivered them here to me. Came to a realisation that the floods were on. We would come in daily and check on the restaurant, and the water started to bubble up through the deck. There was just insects and creatures that I haven't seen before all running across the deck, and we had boats that were floating down the middle of the river, and a big fuel tank from the marina had broken away and it crashed into one boat, which then crashed into another boat, and both of those broke their moorings. I can remember Neil as his boat broke away and came over and crashed into our fence. So we tied Neil up to the restaurant. As the waters would rise, we'd just move his boat further and further up to the point where we actually ended up pulling it up into the car park at the front of the restaurant, and that's where he stayed for the height of the water. And it wasn't until the waters went down that the realisation hit of what we've just been through. Probably 2 to 4 inches of mud completely through the restaurant, over the bars, through the toilets. There was no surface that wasn't touched. The pair had been cut, and so we stood in the bar and drank hot beer, basically. So we can definitely say that we're the only people who have stood waist deep in water at the Spinnaker in the last 30 years.